the last topic. We talk about so many serious topics, and now let's talk about something which is more fun.
Are those the 20 questions?
Those questions,
Goodness.
it's just like a small. It's
Those are not small questions.
It's just
Those
like
are societal dilemma.
It's just like do you like dog or cat?
Oh my goodness. I think that's your version of do you like dog or cat?
Yeah, because
We talk about these in English class and have debates.
yeah. So today I don't want to have a today I don't want to have a debate.
Oh, no,
I just
no.
want to if we debate on it, we will go to tomorrow morning. So it's just like to quick how you want to do. Okay,
Sure,
the first one. Are you ready?
Sure.
I feel it's like a TV show. Okay, so the first one, in a wheat field, right? You walk across the wheat field, and there are so many different wheat. You want to pick one, maybe the largest one, maybe the most beautiful one, whatever. But you can only pick one at one time, and cannot go back. How you will pick the wheat you want to pick?
Well, based on agriculture, I will pick the one out of the place that's been watered the best, that has the best soil. And I'll just look at them and say, oh, that looks like a healthy patch. And why would I wouldn't worry too much. I would
Just pick it.
Yeah.
But what if you walk for several miles and you find something much better?
Well, I already picked it. What choice do I have if
Do you feel regretful?
Some, but I also feel like I don't want to be regretful, and so I made the choice and I made it already. It depends on the choice. I mean,
No regrets.
to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, don't to have any regrets, right? If you choose, yeah. Okay, cool. So the next one, I think that the next one is very famous. You may have heard of that, right? A tree. Go ahead. That's a hard. Wow, that's really hard. Go straight. And there are 5 people, on the railroad, and you have the option, right? There's a switch. If you press the switch, the train can go into another direction, but there's one person. If you do nothing, it will hit the 5 people. If you press the switch, it will hit the 1 person. What you will do?
I would. Well, first of all,
you have no idea.
Just because I'm next to a switch doesn't mean that it's my responsibility.
Exactly. You can do nothing. It's not your responsibility. You can do nothing.
So I'm gonna go get the conductor and say, why are there people on the train tracks? What's going on, and what's going on here?
Imagine, let's make this situation worse. You just have 1 second to make a decision. Yes or no. Press or no. It happens in seconds.
Well, I guess, I mean, if I don't want to kill anybody. And so I don't like this, but
okay.
Anyway, I guess I would just never be in that situation in the first place.
Most human beings won't in such position.
I don't want to be responsible for murder.
You can do nothing actually. It's also an option.
Yeah.
If you don't want to answer, we
I
can
think
skip.
no, it's not that I don't want to answer. It's just because it's a dilemma.
Because it is.
I would pull the lever, but I don't want to murder someone.
I get a point. Actually, the real, at the very beginning, in my understanding, why people ask this question is they want to answer the question, can life be evaluated by numbers? Life is something can be evaluated by numbers or not. That's the original ask,
I see.
right? Because
Or like, how do
basically,
you value someone?
exactly,
Like, oh, are they old? Should they die?
exactly, right? That's the reason, because you have no idea. You only, there are 5 people, there are 1 people. When we say we want to turn the switch, our assumption is 5 life is important than 1 life. That may be a hidden assumption when we price the switch, right? Right. But then let's go to a hard question. Why do we can value life in such a way? Let's don't go deeper. The next question is that, okay, so a person, his wife get a very serious disease, and the medicine can cure it, can cost like $2,000. And this person, all his money, only let's say $1,000. He gave all his money to the pharmacy, whatever. But actually, the cost to make this medicine maybe just $200, something like that. So at the end, the man cannot get the medicine because he cannot pay for $2,000. So he steal, he stole the medicine to cure his wife. Do you think he is guilty or he's not guilty?
Well, I think your question is not necessarily if it's he's guilty, but is it morally correct or not? Because technically he's guilty. Because I guess guilty from the way I'm looking at it is, did he commit a crime? Yes, he did. But was that okay? Or in considering his situation, I think considering his situation,
But you know what?
like, what?
You can go.
Well, because like there's like there's a thing in the Bible where it's like, don't let me be so poor, God, that I have to steal, but don't let me be so rich that I forget you. And so I can understand why he would steal to save his wife. I mean, stealing is stealing, and how I would approach it is as soon as he could pay them back, he would pay them back. And I mean, if he can pay them back more than what it costs, then great. With, but yeah, so
I
that's
get
the
a
way-
point. Yeah, what I'm thinking about that, if a law make people have to steer, then the issue is not on the person, maybe on the law.
Yeah, they should just lower the price of the medicine.
Yeah, right. It's just like in a war, right? If the war, that happens also in the Second World, the World War II or World War I, right? And something you think you know, you do what you should do, but at the end of the day, what you are doing maybe immoral. Okay, the next question, the question is simple. If you have a time machine, you can go back to history, and you can kill the baby Hitler. Will you kill the baby Hitler or no? That's hard, huh?
Yeah. If God wanted me to, then yeah, because he persecuted so many people.
In the future.
Yeah. But also, like I said, I don't want to murder someone, so only if God wanted me to. But
So I got you.
yeah.
So I got you. So if you imagine you are at that position, you will only know at that moment. You cannot know now.
Well, I'm not in that position now.
Yeah. So
like,
you don't
I'm not
know.
gonna go and try to murder someone now. Why would
Right.
I do that?
Right. I get a point.
But also, I don't want to kill a baby.
Yeah, that's also another issue, right? So I don't know why some humans think about such weird questions.
Yeah. Well, I think that they're asking the questions because they want to know the thing underneath is
Right, because this is more like this is the scenario.
Yeah.
But what they want to asking is what's your value?
Because people can lie about that. but it's harder to lie if they're talking about this and then based on like the fruit, like I'm saying, the fruit of what they're saying and their actions or whatever.
Right.
It shows you because if
Exactly.
someone is sadistic and they're like, oh yeah, I would torture him, like what?
Yeah, right.
You know, like that just shows itself.
And also why it spent me a lot of time to try to find some questions because when I ask these questions, I'm also asking myself. When I ask myself this question, I gradually I understand much better about what's my real value.
Interesting.
Because if we don't think about those things, if we don't face a dilemma, we don't know what's our true value.
What your values are?
I mean, each question may show different aspects.
Yeah.
For example, right, like the medicine one.
Yeah.
When I think about this question, if I'm asked that question, then I realize that I'm never a person think law is something naturally be true. I think sometimes it's just not reasonable. Right?
Yeah.
So
Laws man-made.
right. So
well, actually I retract that. God does make law.
right,
Anyway.
but what we are talking about is humans law.
Yeah.
Right. So what I also like about life, right? So 5 people, 1 people, it also make me have a self-reflection. How I understand life. Right. So
Yeah.
well, okay. So the next question, in the ancient Greek mythology, right? There is a person. His name is Sisyphus. This is the pronunciation. Basically, the idea is that he pushed the stone to the mountain. After he reached the peak of the mountain, the stone fall down. He do it again. It's a punishment given by Jews and some other stuff. So if the life is such a repeated work without meaning or doesn't have any outcome, is the life still meaningful?
So to that, I would ask the person who created that analogy, is that how you see life? Because I don't see life that way. I see life, for me, because I'm a Christian, as I'm learning, I feel like the Bible says that Christians are going from glory to glory to glory. I'm learning more and more and more. So no, my life is not a series of punishments, repetitive punishments over and over and over. And maybe it felt like that when I was in preschool, still learning how to obey my parents, but no, life is not like that at all. That's not how I see it.
Got you. So which means that, so for example, this question show you that how you think about life.
Yeah.
Right? You even don't think about life. It's like doing repeated work.
No.
Although sometimes it feels like.
I mean, sometimes I do repetitive things, but life is not like, oh, I'm pushing this up the hill and I know I'm gonna have to do it again and over again. It's forever.
Because it's very easy to think in this way. Is that okay? It's just like, okay, you are in elementary school. You say, okay, I finally graduated from elementary school. So you start from middle school. You finish middle school. You start from.
Well, everything is a new season. It's never going to be the same. So if I graduate high school, I'm not going to go be an elementary schooler again. I go and I have different assignments on my life.
Like
so
level
up. Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just not.
Yeah. Right.
I don't see life like that at all. Unless I was in prison. Maybe if I was in prison, I would feel like that. But I do not feel like that. So.
I got you. So you see, when you answer this question, I also get inspiration about your answer.
Mm-hmm.
The next question, sometimes you have dreams, and I don't know that you can feel it's dream when you are dreaming. I cannot. So dreams and reality, which one is real? How you know you are not in your dream? For example, at this moment.
Well, well, I sometimes sometimes I can't tell that I'm dreaming while I'm dreaming. Like sometimes I can tell that I'm dreaming when I'm dreaming. But I would say um dreams are like a way that God can speak to me, or it could be like my brain's way of processing things and my own creative mind. Um, so I would say dreams are like that, where sometimes, like in the Bible, you see God uses dreams as like for example, Joseph, the story of Joseph and his 11 brothers. He had multiple dreams and they were symbolic. So that's how I see dreams used, as opposed to, is this life a like are we in the matrix? Like, is this a construct?
Of course.
No.
Okay.
This is not a construct. I'm living real life, and
I got
I mean, when I die, I get to live another life forever in heaven. Whether, well, I will either be in heaven or hell forever, because humans are immortal. Like, we will be immortal. We're mortal right now in our mortal flesh, but after we die, we're going somewhere forever. But anyway.
I got you. Actually, you are kind of like answer the next question. The next question is that brain in a vat, right? Imagine if you put a brain
Yeah.
in a, let's say, in a bottle
Okay.
or vat, something like that, and you like use all different, cable to connect it to something, and it makes this brain give some, input so that the brain thought it's having a life, something like that, right? How can you do you think that can we know we are real or we are virtual? For example, we may be like something virtual in a game, in a movie, in a virtual machine, something like that.
Right. Well, if you hooked up those brain to wires, is that brain a person?
Do you think so? It's a person or no?
Well, I think a person has a mind, a soul, and a spirit. So a mind, will, and emotions, and also a spirit. So probably not, because like, I mean, they have a mind, but they don't have a heart.
They don't have
It's just a
soul.
brain. They don't have a soul. It's just a brain. It's, if we were meant to be just brains, then we'd be just brains, but we're meant to be built the way we are. God made us that way. We're made in the image of God. And so I guess that's my answer to that question, is how do you know you're not a simulation? Well, because you were made specifically to be just the way you are. You were made intentionally. You were formed and knitted together in your mother's womb for a purpose in your life. You're not living in a simulation. You're living this life because you have something about you that is valuable.
Got you. And yeah, so the next one. Imagine you have a ship, and sometimes you need to replace a part of the ship, right? You replace it, One day you replace every part, every component of this ship. Is this ship still the original ship?
Well, you just answered your own question. If you're replacing every part of the ship, is it made of the same parts that it was? Is it the same exact thing?
Well, you use different material, right? But the material may look like the same. Like, let's say you have a car.
Okay.
Today you replace this part, tomorrow you replace that part. Someday you replace everything in your car. It's still the same car, something like that.
Well, it's still my car. It's still a car, but is it the same car? No. Because if I took this chair and I cut it in half and then made the other half with a resin, is it the same chair? No, I would say that it's not. You could say that it is.
So for example, like this chair, right? Let's replace the cover. So it's another chair.
The chair has been changed.
So which means as long as I change a little bit, it's totally changed, right? Just if I just
It's
change
just
a little,
different. It's just different. It's still a chair. It's still the chair. It's
but
still
not
your
the
chair,
original.
but it's different than the original.
Okay, so no matter how late, so from this way, every moment we are different. We are not the original us, right? Because our cells are keep changing, and
Yes. Yes. You're growing in one way or the other always.
so every second we are different.
Yeah, basically. Every moment you're either becoming more like a heavenly creature or more like a hellish creature. That's how C.S. Lewis puts it.
Got you. I think that for most of these questions they have I feel it has some similar things in it. Next question: if trust is lost or trust is destroyed, do you think that we can rebuild trust again?
That's a good question. I think it
I think
depends
so.
on the situation.
Uh-huh.
Like with my own parents, like growing up, like I've lied to my parents before and I've rebuilt the trust. Because like you can lie to someone and then they find out and then you break trust and then it takes a while to build it up. So I think it can take a while, but it can be built back. Yeah.
But I think that the situation between parents and the children, it's slightly different because you have opportunity
Sure.
to rebuild the trust. Even though sometimes it can take long, but for most the other relationship, you even don't have the opportunity to rebuild trust.
That's why I think that it takes patience to have good relationships with people because I think that a strong relationship, a healthy relationship, isn't just a relationship with no problems. Because problems do come up. We will have disagreements. But I think the part that makes a friendship strong is getting through those. So it's not just the absence of problems, but problem solving and seeking to put each other above each other.
Makes sense. Yeah. So the next question is that imagine if you grew up in a cave and everything you saw is not the real world. It's more like a projection. You are kind of like watch everything or feel everything around you from a projection rather than
So like you grew up in a cave and we're just watching YouTube.
It's kind of like that. And you thought that's the real life. And one day you somehow you walk out of the cave and you saw the real world. It's actually a little bit horrible, right? Because that's something you never really experience. Well, you stay in the real world, which you are so uncomfortable with. Go back to the cave. What should you do?
Yeah, that's so funny. We had this dilemma. We talked about this in high school. It was very fun. And also I see real life examples of that. I would learn how I would ask for help. I would be like, this is really scary. And I would talk to the appropriate people to learn how to cope with the real world. Because as soon as I go out, I would come back in and if I went back in, I would be like, well, there's so much world out there and I'm missing out on it. I'm not living up to my full potential if I just stay in here because I could be affecting people positively. I could be making a difference in the world.
Got you. Because once you know the reality, you can never pretend it doesn't exist.
No.
Makes sense. Next one. If the future can be completely predicted, let's say like physics, right? The traditional physics. If you know start point of object. You know the price, the momentum you give it. You know where it is in the future. So if the future is totally predictable, do there such thing as free will?
That's
Do
a
we
good
have?
question. We do have free will because God has granted it to us, and yet God is sovereign. It's a very interesting thing, and Christians often ponder that question. But yes, according to the Bible, God has given us free will. It's why we can choose whether to be a son and daughter of God or not. It's why we can still choose to sin. Yeah.
So, but the thing is that if the future is everything is certain. So, for example, if what I will do tomorrow is already be determined, then how I can show my free will? Because no matter how I feel, it's already certain. What happened will happen.
Well, do you place value in what you're gonna do tomorrow?
What do you mean by value?
Do you think it's important, the choices that you make tomorrow? Do you put value in that?
Because if, for example, if I don't have free will to determine what I need to do, I feel I'm just like
Like a puppet?
yeah, play
Right.
like a movie. Everyone has a playbook.
Mhm.
Everything is determined. It's like a book. Before you start the first page, you already know the end. You
Right.
don't know the end, but the end is already written.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, but does the fact that someone knows the end make your individual choices every day any less valuable?
That's a good question. So what you are asking is that the person who make my end, right? The fact will make my baby less valuable or not?
Mhm.
Is that your question?
Yeah.
Then I need to figure out what is valuable.
Yeah.
What is valuable, you think?
Well, I think life is valuable and God tells me that I'm valuable. I can look in his word and pray and sing and worship and experience community and know and experience that God loves me. And in that, I know that he values me based on the identity that I'm learning more of and growing into. Based on that, I can know my value. And so I know, even if God knows the end of my life, um, he has plans for a good future for me. That's a Bible verse in Jeremiah. He has plans to prosper me, not to harm me. And so the fact that God knows my end doesn't scare me because I know he's a loving father and he's a shepherd. If I'm a little sheep that doesn't know what's going on at all and I'm wandering around, I'm like, should I walk off this cliff, God? God is going to take his staff and he's going to be like, no, come back here. And I know that he'll do that for me and he'll teach me in the way I should go. And that's why I think that I can place value in the choices I make.
I get a point. So whether the ending is already written, it's not so important actually, right? So even if God already know how your story will end, but it's not important because still the journey, because of your belief, it's still valuable for you.
Well, I'm grateful that I'm happy that God knows my end because I can trust him that he knows that it will be good.
I get a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question, there is a so-called a Pandora's box, right? Pandora opens the box, and all the bad things came out, like disease, like everything. And it's driven by Pandora's curiosity. Do you think that humans' curiosity is a good thing or bad thing?
So I can bring this to the parallel of Adam and Eve and the story of the fall of man, where
Yeah, like eat the apple on
Yeah.
the tree. It's also out of curiosity, kind of.
it was curiosity and doubt. So
Yeah,
the serpent said to Eve, "Do you really think that God had this good plan for you?" And so he planted seeds of doubt to say, "Do you really think God cares about you and has the best plan for you?" And she went, "I don't know if he does. Maybe I need to take it into my own hands." And so she ate the apple or the fruit. And so based on that, I mean, your question is human curiosity bad? Well, no, it wasn't curiosity that was the reason why she opened it or she took the bite. It was because she doubted God.
It's a distrust.
Yes.
I got you. It's about the distrust. That's the issue, rather than curiosity is the issue.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah. I think that I learn a lot from your answers when you think about those questions. Yeah. Matrix. Okay, you have two peer, right? One is a red peer, one is a blue peer. If you take the red peer, you can go back to the matrix and have a happy life. And if you take the blue peer, you will wake up. And that's reality. If you watch the movie, that reality is very cruel. The machines, the robot has dominated the planet, and humans are just like a battery lying in the cabin, a small cabin to maintain life. Which one you choose? A virtual but happy life, real but very crucial life.
I don't know. I feel like I could choose either one at this moment, but I would feel different when I experienced that.
I get a point.
I mean, I think I would probably take the blue one and experience real life, even if it's horrible.
Who knows? Let's say how Abigail will choose 10 years later. I guess that because most of the friends I know that prefer to choose right one.
Well, that's what I would say at first, because yeah, but also if I knew that it was it's a real dilemma. I would choose. I feel like it's very similar on which one I would take, because like I would know the whole time that in reality there are people suffering in
Yeah.
real life. But I'm also not infinitely strong. I would probably take the red one so that I can actually enjoy my life, because I do want to enjoy my life. I haven't actually seen The Matrix.
Maybe
But,
sometime when you have.
But I know the concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It
hard.
would be 50-50. It'd be
I
like
got-
51-49.
I
Like,
got you. At this
I don't know.
moment, it's something not clear to you. But maybe in future, right?
Yeah.
You may have your own, preferences and understandable. The next question is that, okay, if a shoemaker someday wake up and find that the memory he has is of a prince. So he has a body of shoemaker, but in his memory, he think he's a prince. So is this person a shoemaker or a prince?
I think that your memory is something that is like of your past and of your
Mm-hmm.
past memories, and you
Mhm.
really learn from those, and that
Yep.
like psychologically that is a buildup of who you are.
Right.
So from a sense, he is the prince, but who he actually is in real life is the shoemaker. So normally in real life, you would physically be the shoemaker your entire life, and your soul would be your mind, will, and emotions are the shoemakers. But in this scenario, you're saying, what if you were in the body of someone else and your soul switched
Yeah.
or something, like where your mind, will, and emotions are from
Yeah.
someone else?
Yeah.
Um. I guess my follow-up question would be, was that person made to be that way? Like, did they start that way? Um, and I would wonder, what is God's plan for that person in their life? Because there's still value, even if they like have a non-normative situation going on. So
Gotcha. Next one. Okay. This one is that imagine Mary. She grew up in a room, a room cave, and in that room everything is black and white, which without color. But she, as a scientist, she learned everything about color. She know what is color physically. She knows there are different frequency, whatever. And suddenly one day she walk out the room, walk out the cave, very simple,
right.
huh? And she look at the real world and find, okay, they are red, they are yellow, they are green. Do you think that Mary get new knowledge or no? Because she already knew every knowledge about color, but she just never see color before.
Right. So there's knowledge of something, and then there's the actual, I know something because I experienced it.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's both. In physics and electromagnetism, you learn about electricity, and then you go to the lab and you build a circuit. So you're combining both. And what she's had the whole time is she's had theoretical knowledge, and then she gets to experience it. For example, color is just a part of the spectrum of frequencies. So you have radio waves,
Yep.
X-rays,
Yep.
blah blah blah.
Yep.
And so like a lot of times you have all this theoretical knowledge, but you have life experiences to back it up. Like, oh, once I got an X-ray, oh, I used the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I think the question is, did her knowledge increase? Well, yes, in an experiential way. So she got to experience her theoretical knowledge. So, she learned something.
I got you. So basically, what your point is that experience is also part of knowledge.
Yes.
You cannot learn everything from textbook or from indirect experience.
You can, but it's just different than when you get to experience it as well. Not because a mathematician can learn a bunch of theories
Yeah,
And it's like, it
from
doesn't mean
paper.
that, yeah, it doesn't mean that their learning was not of consequence.
I get your point. It's just like no matter how many research we have done, when we really experience that, there's still something new happen. Based on this discussion, I'm thinking about if a person never experienced love,
Yeah,
he or she will never know what love is,
Yeah.
even if she or him read a lot about love, discuss a lot about love.
yeah. That's why it's so important to not only have head knowledge about God, but to experience Him.
How to experience?
How does someone or how do I?
How to, both?
Um, Good question. I would say I experience God. Like one example I talked about, like through the love of
Your
others.
grandma.
Like my grandma. I experience God through prayer and reading the Word of God, and because that is His Word. And also through song and an act of just I just talk with Him throughout the day in my mind.
That's your way
Yeah,
to feel the connection between you and God.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And that's something cannot get from just
just reading the Bible.
yeah, just reading.
If I just read it like a book, like a textbook, and I said, "Oh, okay, God is this, God is that." Okay.
It's more like knowledge
Yes.
rather than
Yes.
experience.
Knowledge puffs up, but like actually understanding, like experiencing it is like so important. Because like, for example, the Pharisees historically, like they were all about the knowledge, but they did not accept Jesus, despite like all of the prophecies and stuff in the Old Testament. But anyhow, they were all about the head knowledge, but they didn't accept him in their heart. So that's one extreme example.
I get a point. Next one, we are close. We are almost here. Two options. One is to be a happy pig. Another one is be a miserable philosopher. Which one do you prefer?
Oh. Well, I would be a happy philosopher. Well,
I prefer to become a happy pig.
I would probably be a happy pig. Why would I want to be a miserable philosopher? I mean,
Well,
but I'm not meant to be a pig.
I
but,
understand
I mean,
your point, and I get
yeah.
your point. I get your point. Okay, next one. So, yeah, there's a machine. When you connect to this machine, it can give you any experience you want to
Right.
experience, no matter think, become rich, become beautiful, become capable, whatever. If you have such a machine, do you want to try this machine?
Well, would I want to try? Sure.
Well, you worry about it's too good that you won't want to take it
Oh,
off.
well, I would not use it to replace reality. I might use it to say, well, there's some things that I'm not technically capable of doing, and I would love to try with this machine, but what I value my daily database basis. I would not fabricate that with a machine. So I would say like there's value in my own life where I don't need to rely on something to fabricate it to simulate that, because like our conversation, for example, like this is so valuable. Like having an actual connection with you is valuable. I would not want to go into a video game and just like, if I compared the value of, am I gonna have a visual novel conversation with a computer or with a game
Yeah, I get a
situation or an
point.
actual person? So
I get a
yeah.
point too.
But if I want to experience cycling on the top of a mountain, and I know that if I did that in real life, I would die. Or if I want to go to Mars, then I'd be like, oh, that would be amazing. What would be?
I get a point.
Yeah.
I get a point. I think that your answer to many of these questions is very inspiring, at least inspiring for me, because some your perspective is like a teaching for me, because I noticed that in all of your answers, something are very similar. You emphasize a lot in this real life, right? No matter the virtual, let's say, the experience machine is good or attractive, but you always regard it like as some just one part of life rather than the whole life, right? For this life, your love, your belief on God, and your love and your relationship with people around you, all those different things are the key or the most important or most valuable things for you, right? Even if the machine can make you feel right, whatever feeling you want to have, it's just one experience, but it's not life in itself. I get your point. I think it's very inspiring. We're close. Amen.
I read this one. This one is so interesting.
Amen, right? Take a walk after dinner, and he walked by what's that called?
A swamp.
Yeah, swamp, right? And suddenly a light, hit him. He died instantly. And somehow, because of chemistry experience and the swamp, the lighting, a new person appear. This person have everything the same as the died person. The appearance, the memory, everything the same.
Yeah.
And because he carry his memory, so he may go back. He may go back home and keep his finishing his work and do his work, play with his family. Is this person the same person?
No, even if he has the same mind, will, and emotions.
What's different?
Well, the fact that it was made from not the same way. The other guy was born and lived his entire life, but this guy was fabricated and just brain implants.
But if no one knows.
Well, it doesn't matter if no one knows, he's still different.
Even if we cannot tell, imagine if this man is your friend,
Sure.
you cannot tell.
But one guy was born and lived his whole life, and one guy was fabricated by the swamp. Are they different? Well, they have the same brain, the same emotions, or
Everything,
memories.
Everything, body also.
But they did start from different things, so they're different.
So which means that if I'm thinking wide, that when we talk about clone, right? If a human clone,
right,
from you or from me,
yeah,
it's different. Even if maybe we look totally the same.
Yeah, the clone is still different from me because the clone has their own experience.
So. Right. This one, yeah, I get a point.
And what's the actual question that one is asking? Do you know?
What do you mean by actual question?
Like, what does it reveal about the person answering the question when they answer?
Oh, if you search for this, you can find the whole explanation on Wikipedia.
Okay.
So the question the question I share with you is actually right, it's actually have a name about this question.
Yes.
If you search for it, you will find what's that. I just try to summarize it in a simple way. Yeah. These questions, some is actually philosophy.
Yes, they're definitely philosophers' questions. Yeah. I would say it's very interesting. I feel like philosophy is like man trying to explain the world or explain how things work.
Yeah.
But I look at philosophy and I end up looking at it out of including God in the picture, because how can I not? And I just think it's so interesting because my answer to those, like, it doesn't really depend on me. It depends on like God, because like, so it's just so interesting.
Yeah, that's why, that's why the conversation become inspiring for me, because when I ask some people, they may just try to answer this question from how they think, right? God is not here. So that's why when you give the answers, it can be totally different, because you think, because at the very beginning, you understand the question itself in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we are really close. Do you think that the world is in a eternal repetition? It's keep repeat.
Oh.
We have Abigail now, many years later, still have such a conversation.
Oh.
Then it's like a circle,
Okay. Well, I think some things in life, there is repetition in life, but I don't think it will always be the same. So I think there are different seasons. Seasons come back around. So for example, I might have a kid and that kid might get married eventually. Well, I got married, they got married, we all had a childhood, etc. Some things are cyclical. Some things about life aren't, like life and death, growing old and having kids. Maybe you didn't have kids, maybe you couldn't, all kinds of things. So there are certain things in life, and also there is the fact that like history can repeat itself in certain ways. I don't think it will be exactly the same like you're saying, but something that you see in the Old Testament in the Bible is I think it's the cycle of Judges, I believe. There is this thing where God said to them, okay, I am a jealous God and I don't want you to be worshiping any other gods. That's important to me. And they were like, okay. And then they were surrounded by pagan cultures and pagan countries or nations. And they started just making these like, oh, it'll be fine. Like, I'll just marry into my family and start serving this God, and I'll serve God and this other God. It'll be fine. And so stuff like that happened, and then God was like frustrated and mad, and they were unrepentant. So he would send a judge, and the judge would come out of Israel and say, hey, there's a problem. Do you not see this? And they would go, oh no, okay, I'm sorry. And then they would repent, and then they'd be like, okay, we're at right standing. And then it would repeat because they kept forgetting. When you stop telling of the stories and the history that you have with God, of like what he's done, his faithfulness, his character, you start to lose that. And that's why like history is so important. And I'm not like a history buff, like I'm not someone who was like all into history, but history is so important, and it's so important to be storytelling and telling these stories of like all of that. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it makes sense, because what you are talking about is more like the repetition. Repetition.
Yeah.
Of kind of like humans' behavior or human history.
Yeah.
Mistakes we make now actually have been made maybe people 1,000 years ago, and the people 1,000 years later may make that mistake again.
Yeah.
I get your point. It's similar, but it's not totally the same. That's how you understand the repetition. Okay, cool. Last question. Last one. Cheers. Okay. Imagine you have two options. The first option can be like the king of the world. Everything you want, money, wealth, health, whatever you want, you have it. But there is a sword, and in front of, on the roof, whatever. No matter where you go, it's always here. It can drop down someday. You don't know. Another option is that just live as a normal person. just everything is average.
Right.
But there's no such a sword hand on top of you. So
Right.
which one will you choose?
Well, I would live as a normal person because what advantage do I have being a normal person versus being a king? I think they're both existences that are valuable, and I already live a happy life now, a fulfilled life. What more do I need? Why would I need the wealth if a sword is going to hang over me like that?
You know what? So far, I discussed with this question with multiple different friends. No one should become the king, have a sword hang on the head. But if you look at around the real life, I felt that actually sometimes people doing what like the in this scenario the king do. We pursue more wealth. We pursue the so-called more success. And we, as time went by, the concern, it's not necessarily a sword, but there are some concern like a crowd become bigger, and keep accompany with us. That's if you look around the real life, actually, at least some people actually are doing that.
That's interesting. Or it depends on how you see the sword. Because if you see the sword as risk, then that makes sense. Because
Or maybe concern or
concern.
anxiety or all those things.
Yeah, I would rather live a life without that anxiety.
Yeah, because if you look at the social media, right, there are so many people who are so successful or whatever. It sometimes give you kind of like anxiety to give you a
To be like
push.
them, to feel like to be successful, I need to be like them too. That's often what I experience.
Yeah, you don't need to, but when you have such an environment, it will, unintentionally, you have such a peer pressure, something like that. Yeah, in some ways, right? And you feel that if you don't have that, you are lose behind those people. Everyone is doing that. Everyone have that, right? Everyone have, let's say, fancy stuff, and you feel if you don't have that, then you may don't have such feeling. But I believe that you may can say some people may have. Right?
I can be tempted to feel like that too. Sometimes I do feel like that.
Right?
Like it's a common mentality.
Exactly, especially in such an environment. It's very easy. You open your phone, and there are so many fancy stuff happening.
Yeah.
There's so many people who
look at my LinkedIn. Look at this.
Oh yeah, right.
It's hard.
Right. Even LinkedIn, it's a professional, but if you open someone's, profiles, oh, it's so brilliant guy, right? Have so
how can I be like that?
Right, exactly. Right. That's well, it's more like a positive way, but if we think about it, it's some kind of a little bit like such a sword, such a concern. We want to become successful, not as wealthy as you mentioned, like a king, but it's like a metaphor. A lot of these questions is like
yes,
it just makes the things very extreme.
Yeah.
In normal life, most of the time we don't have such extreme things, but we may have similar scenario, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I think that we talk more than 2.5 hours. Yeah, today. And thanks for your time. And I hope that many years later, when we look back, we will think the conversation still be interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.